welcome to the New Trucking Standard brought to you by the Federation of Professional Truckers. We're here to rebuild the industry from the driver's seat through real talk, shared stories, and straight up education. Glad to have you rolling with us. Now let's hammer down. All right, let's fire it up here. You got Cupcake in the North Band here on the New Trucking Standard. This is the third episode that we're putting of our podcast. This evening, we are going to be talking basically kind of about rules and regulations and stuff like that. Moving on and into other different things of the topics that are kind of going on in hand. And right now, I'm going to let Matt talk a little bit about kind of what's been going on with him, and then we'll go from there.
Well, brother, you can see as well as I can see we're both at home today. It's a lucky day for both of us. Hats off to all the professional truck drivers that are out there. Really, hats off to all of you guys, all you ladies that are still out there. We'll see you out there here probably tomorrow afternoon. We'll be out back rolling again. We've got a lot going on. Obviously, we're like Cupcake just said, we're in our third episode. We're still newbies. We're still beginning at this. We got a lot of work to do. FOPT's got a big list. Cupcake, hey, we're going to Matt's 2026 this year, brother.
Cheers, my friend.
I'm telling you, first time out. We're doing it all by ourselves. We're not. Nobody's helped us pay for this. This is not out of any truck driver's wallet, except for those that are actually involved with the organization. This is self-built. Again, we talked about that in episode 1 and 2. We are not going after any truck driver's pocket. We're not going after your wallet, folks. What we're doing is the way it should have been done a long time ago. And we're proud to be doing it the way we are. On the light side, one thing that you and I have been talking about is old trucker tricks, man. Old tools of the road that they used back in the day. Figured, hey, let's start this podcast off with something a little more lighthearted because we're going to get into some deep stuff here. But let's talk about, let's talk an old trucker trick. You know what they used to use bleach for back in the day?
To heat your tires and melt the ice.
Yeah, that's it.
It's the same old trick that they used to use in drag racing for burnouts. They thought it would help melt the rubber just a little bit, create a little traction. So
we used to use it in high school as kids, dumping on the cars and sit there and hold that car as long as you can while he spun that thing. And they just set those, it just melts the rubber. But the trucker trick is if you're stuck on ice, most of us will be driving in snow and ice this year. And you get parked and the parking lots seem to ice over. You have a hard time getting out of that spot without jackknifing your rig or taking out a mirror. Carry a gallon of bleach with you. You take that bleach before you even get started. You go out, you dump it on those drive tires. You let it sit for a minute or two. You don't need to let it sit for long. A minute or two. You put that truck in gear all the way to low. Don't put it in high. Don't think you're going to spin, but put it all the way to low and just let that truck crawl. That bleach in that tires will help you pull yourself off that ice and get you moving enough to get you out of that spot. Carry that gallon of bleach with you, drivers, truckers. You guys, this is some of the stuff that if you're new and you don't know, keep this on the front of your mind. We got winter coming. Get that gallon of bleach. Get it 2 gallons of bleach. It ain't going to weigh but more than 14 pounds. It ain't going to hurt your truck any. Get it in that side box. Make sure you have it on hand, especially if you're going to be running up north, Midwest during the snow season. It's a good thing to have, guys.
The other thing is to go and get some rubbing alcohol. You can put that down in your washer fluid. It increases your alcohol level a little bit and helps keep your squirter nozzles from freezing up.
Yep.
The other thing, you talk about ice that I do a lot when I pull into one that's got a crap ton of snowpack, and we've all seen it 3-4 inches.
Oh, yeah.
They can't plow when we're all parked in there, but we just keep driving in and packing it in. When you pulling off that highway, your tires are still building heat while you're driving.
Absolutely.
When you pull in there and you sit on that pack, if you don't go through, and I've had a lot of people that ask me, "What are you trying to do? Get that truck exactly perfectly straight?" And I'm like, "No, I'm cooling my tires off."
Yep.
Because I'll pull in and I'll back up, pull in, back up, pull in, back up. I'll do that like 6 or 7 times, real slow, just idling in lower
Yep.
reverse,
Yep.
and I move forward 6, 8 foot, just
Yep.
enough. Like I got an idea, like I'm gonna park here. So I back up 3 feet and then I go to that spot and I go 3 feet ahead. And
Yep.
basically what I'm doing is I'm cooling off that bottom part of that tire so that it doesn't, because what'll happen is you've had it, I've had it happen. I had it happen when I first started driving, didn't know how to fix it, but that's when I learned the bleach trick, and then I learned this
Yep.
trick and back and forth. What happens is you concave, your tire's round, and you concave that, and so you just sit in this little
Mhm.
cup. By the
Yep.
time you get up in the morning, you're in this little cup, and it's slick. So
You're just
another
gonna
trick.
you're just gonna
Yeah.
spin your tires and take a risk of sideswiping the truck beside you.
Yep.
I used to call that trick the runway because
There
you're
you go.
basically setting yourself up for a runway to get out of that. You're self plowing. You're giving that push to get once you get started. You got that 6 feet. You can get out of that hole real well. Uh, One last trick, and then we'll get into what we're talking about. Do you know about the bubblegum trick? The old chewing bubblegum trick. Now this isn't you. Now, listen, this is old school diesel. I don't know if it works with the number two diesel the way that they've got it today. But if you get a pinhole leak in the side of your truck or in the side of your tank, the old trick used to be, which would tell you a lot about chewing gum. Uh, you pop
It doesn't
a
work the
piece.
same way.
Yeah, I didn't think it did, but I haven't
Look,
tried it. I really ought to test that, but
the,
you
the,
used to
the
be able
bubble
to
gum
pop
of
it.
today
Yeah.
to the bubble gum of yesteryear, it's not the same, man.
You
You're
used to
going to
be
have
able to.
these guys and gals cussing us out for trying to go in and get some Bubblicious or some Wrigley's. And they're going to come back in here in the comments going, the hell are them two old buggers talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
So,
No,
yeah, yeah,
it's a very
yeah,
old school trick.
yeah.
It's old school diesel that it used
Yeah.
to work on. But I remember the trick. I remember having a leak in one of my first years driving, and this was before the number two came out. It was pure diesel. Um, and I had this pinhole leak, and really wasn't causing much of an issue, but an old truck driver had told me, just go get a piece of chewing gum, chew on that a little bit, stick that in that hole, and it'll harden like a piece of steel, and that thing won't leak. You can get that down the road as far as you want to go. He says, just don't let DOT see that bubble gum on the side of your tank. Um, there's a lot of tricks and trades. We're going to share them with you as we go along. It ought to be a lot of fun. It really ought to be, to some of the stuff that the hacks that are out there. Uh, it's going to make your life a lot easier. So grab yourselves some rubbing alcohol, guys, gals. Grab yourselves a couple of gallons of bleach. We got winter coming. Be prepared, um, and be safe. And
Yeah.
with that being said, we've got a heck of an episode. A lot of people in trucking don't understand what the difference between regulation and law is, and we're going to get into that. Uh, the process of appeal for both. There's a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of misinformation out there in the trucking community about these things. And we're going to try to touch on them today and give you a little bit of a heads up on the difference between law and regulation. And we're going to do, and you're going to hear a lot from my buddy down there. He is a little more educated than I am. I'm going back to self educating on a lot of this stuff as far as uh, the repeal processes of these things. But my buddy Cupcake here, man, if y'all pay attention and listen to this man, he's going to give you a lot of great information, a lot of insight. I'm going to pitch in here and there as we go, but this one here is really going to be all Cupcake, and we're gonna shoot this back at you there, brother, and let's get this moving on.
Well, I'm just going to tell everybody, please bear with my ADHD brain. Okay. So I'm liable to bounce around like a Easter bunny here. That's the other reason why I have Matt around, is to try to help keep me focused. He even brought it up. He's like, you might want to write something down. So I've kind of got my thing here so that I can kind of keep a pin here so that I don't jump from 1 to 25 back to 2. So
yeah,
anyways,
we just bear with us, folks. We're gonna have
yeah.
some fun while we
So,
do this. If you catch them chasing
yeah.
rabbit holes, hey, I'm gonna do my best to catch him. But sometimes he gets to
Come
chasing
here.
that rat. Sometimes he gets to chasing that rabbit like Elmer Fudd, and there ain't no catching him.
Yeah, no, wascally webbit. Oh man. So yeah, to talk about the rules and regulations and the differences hereof is your laws are created by Congress. Okay, so that's going to be like your amendments to your in the Constitution, things of that nature. When it gets those are things where we'll just say the president of the United States, they decide that they want to make a new amendment or something along those lines, or a new bill or a new law, something along those lines. The president cannot do it. But what the president can do is talk to people in Congress, and then a congressional member has to write the law. After they write the law, it gets submitted to a committee. After a committee, it gets voted on. If it's voted, if they decide to move forward with it, and this is after they kind of like chew it up and spit it out, chew it up and spit it out a couple of times, and they try to make sure everything, get a bunch of different stuff in there. This is also how we wind up with, like, I don't know, 1,500-page bills. After that, though, it goes into the House. After the House, if it's voted on there, it goes into a committee in the Senate. After the Senate committee, it goes to the Senate floor. It's voted on. If it's voted in at that point, it goes to the president's desk. After that, there's two things. Well, we're going to keep it simple. It's either it's vetoed or it's brought in. Okay.
Right.
If it's vetoed, it gets kicked back. Then it gets on. Then you have to get passed by a 2/3 vote. Even after that, if the president were to sign it in, or it gets voted in on a 2/3 vote, it can still be challenged in a court of law.
Correct.
Because we have checks and balances, and the judicial side is there to interpret. So what can happen is you go through and it gets passed, and then somebody doesn't like it, they go to a federal district court. They file a brief or a lawsuit. They file that suit based upon the constitutionality of said whatever's going on.
Right.
Usually at that point, and we've seen a lot of this go on with the Trump administration, with the red and the blue and the fighting back and forth and the constitutionality of things. Everybody's seen it. Oh, nope, boom, nope. Somebody filed a brief. It's in district court right now. And what usually happens is the judge files an injunction that stops that said bill or regulation from going in.
Right.
Until it can be heard in a court of law. And it's a good thing that we do that, because then we're making sure that what is actually being put in there is actually legal. It goes with our Constitution. It doesn't go against any of the rules or regulations that we already have in place. And, we'll get into those regulations here later. But if we'll just say the person that is that your phone? I think your phone just went off. I keep hearing this ding. Oh, there's that ADHD of mine. Squirrel moment.
There it is. Yeah, squirrel. Chasing that squirrel.
Yeah. Oh, man, Lord. Anyway, sorry, bro.
No, I think that was my son's phone. I think he's got it down here somewhere. Somebody's got a phone down here somewhere. It's binging off.
I keep hearing this bing, bing.
Yeah.
What is that bing?
It just keeps binging off. I think it's my boy's phone. He left it down here or something.
Anyways, ADHD, man.
I'm telling you.
It's a pain in the butt sometimes for me.
Squirrel.
Squirrel. I am straight up from the movie Up, man. Straight up the dog. Damn. Wow. So go through in the district courts, if they go through, and we'll say the person that filed the lawsuit or filed the brief, they don't get what they want, they can go through and file an appeal with the circuit court.
Right.
The circuit court's going to do the exact same thing the district court did. They're going to file an injunction to stop it until they can hear the brief or hear the lawsuit. And then if they still don't get what they want, at this point, they can file a brief with the United States Supreme Court on whether or not if they're going to take, and then the Supreme Court decides whether or not if they're willing to take up that cause, whether they want to hear that brief. And then once that happens, at that point, there's really no. Once the Supreme Court pretty much goes down, that's why they're called the Supreme Court. It's
right.
Once they make their decision, that's the end of it. There's no more going back around. Now, as far as the regulations go, the regulations are based off of, we'll say, so what kind of happens there is that Congress makes a law that we are going to start one of the alphabet groups. So they're going to file something where we're going to go through and we want to form the EPA or the FMCSA or whatever. And then they write the law that comes in there, and then they give that regulatory agency the ability to enforce and implement laws within, or I should say, implement those regulations based off that law.
Right.
And so, and then the thing of it is with the regulation side is, and the reason why I'm talking about this is because right now I've been hearing so much about broker transparency again. Everybody's talking about that. And we're also talking about, what is it? I've got it wrote down here. I wanted to say it the right way. The Senate Bill 893 about the overtime for truckers. So,
well,
the broker transparency goes into regulations, and the S893 goes into a law to govern said regulation. And that's
okay, and that's where I want to jump in here for just a minute. I want everybody to understand. For law, you're dealing with the Senate, you're dealing with the House of Representatives, you're dealing with the president, you're dealing with the judicial system. Okay, with a law, those are the governing bodies over lawmaking. Okay, when it comes to rules and regulations, and this is the only reason I want to stop, because you're moving toward regulation. I want the American truckers that are out here in our country anyway. You have to understand who's actually over top of trucking. If you think it's just FMCSA and Department of Transportation, I'm going to promise you right now, you are way off. Those are only two. I'm going to name some of the ABC groups, federal organizations or federal mandators that are overseeing the trucking industry. And just bear with me for a minute. You do have the FMCSA, one of our main ones, Department of Transportation, just above FMCSA. But you also have the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration that has say in the trucking industry. You have the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, also has say in the trucking industry. You have the EPA, you have OSHA, you have the Federal Highway Administration has say over the trucking industry. You have the Transportation Safety Administration, TSA. You have Customs and Border Control, as well as IRS. Every one of these has written rules and regulations concerning truck driving. Every one of them is is an overseer or has say within the trucking industry. And with that, I'm going to kick it back to you, man. I just wanted people to understand it's not just Department of Transportation. It's not just FMCSA. We have a lot of 3-letter organizations that have say in what is said about what goes on inside the trucking industry. There's actually 10.
Well, you also got the Department of Labor in there.
Department of Labor as well, yes.
And that's where that overtime thing's going to come in, because it goes underneath the Department of Labor with the wage and hour division and the exemption that they have. And if I remember right, it was worded to the point, and I forgive me for not pulling that up so I could go to it. But it was worded to like anything that's under the control of the Secretary of Transportation.
Right.
And so, and that's the one that they're trying to remove. So when you say that, but see, all the alphabet groups, Congress makes the law to form said alphabet group and
Right.
give that alphabet group to the ability to enforce and implement those laws. So, and the regulations are what come from those alphabet groups.
Right.
That's why when we look at, well, in our industry, the Green Bible, it's about yay thick,
Yep.
and you get the little short version a lot of people have. It's about like that tall, about that wide or so, about that thick. It goes up in. If you get the big dog that's got the spiral ring that got all the
Yep.
stuff in it, I think that thing's like
Yeah.
it's
like
huge. It's a
it's
textbook.
like 6 to 8 inches thick.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. So
Yeah.
I just leave it. I look it all up online because I don't want to carry around. I get paid by weight, and I don't need 200 pounds of paper in my truck not when I can. Look, I've got a smartphone for a reason, man.
That's hey,
It's woo. Yeah.
my laptop
So
weighs less than that spiral green book. So I'll
yeah,
put the laptop in there and do my background research on that without.
yeah. If you got a question, and the thing of it is, you'll find it easier there than what you will if you try to go through the Green Bible. Because online you can actually go into the search bar and just search something, and
Yeah.
it'll bing, 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 bing. It pulls it right up, and it's a click away from being able to get the actual the what do they call it, the clarifications.
Well, and there it
So
is. The Green Bible is very much written like a lawyer wrote that book. It's not written for a truck driver. I mean, if you put the time and the energy and the mindset to actually learning how that green book reads and how it's perceived and the interpretation of each of the regulations, then yes, it becomes very easy over the course of time. But really, it's easier to carry a laptop and punch in what you need questions about and get a everyday blue collar answer instead of having to worry about the legalese that's inside that.
yep, it really is. So with moving on from that, we've talked about that. The reason being is because I want to get in, and I think I'm going to kind of like when you get into, we'll do. You know what? Let's just stay on. We'll stay on my timeline I've got here. So a lot of people they want to talk about like the big one that's been going on. I've seen on social media is the $5 a mile, dollar mile thing. That's going on over there in another group, and it's. I've heard there is a content creator that's out there that has said that it is illegal to do. Well, in all actuality, $1 a mile is not, because that is like setting a minimum wage.
Right.
And we already have a minimum wage based off of the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. Now, the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 is also where that we were just talking about the overtime exemption, where that exemption is wrote into that FLSA.
Right.
So the thing, when you get to the point when we have to remember this, when you get to talking about like putting on caps and putting in minimums, there is going to be a lot of pushback. I mean, I know I have heard a lot of people talk. I've heard both sides. One of them says, Article 1, Section A of the Commerce, that the government is there to be able to oversee interstate commerce. It's written so vaguely that it can go either way. So if you go through and you say, well, if you go with the one, they say, well, the states, they go through and they, why don't we leave it to the states? We're overstepping our bounds. If you go back to the Federalist Papers and you listen to what they had to say in there, part of the reason why they wrote in there that the government has the ability to control interstate commerce is because back in the day, back in the 1700s and the 1800s, when our country was first being formed, there were states that were bullies, if you will. They had a lot, and one of them was New York, because that was one of the main ports. So that is where most of the import and export kind of happened, in that northern part of the colonies.
Mm-hmm.
You had I'm not saying down in like the Baltimore and Virginia area, that's kind of like the middle part of the colonies. you get on down into the South, you kind of had like, Savannah and stuff like that,
Yep.
where,
Yep.
that was a major port kind of, or Charleston was another major port in that
Well,
area.
absolutely, but New
So,
York was one of the first major ports, if not the major port.
right, right. But
before
where I
any of
was
those
going
ports.
with
Yeah.
that is, they did that so that they could control and keep one state from overriding another state
Okay.
and going to try to help, because you think of it this way: if New York is pulling in all the money because they're doing most of the importing and exporting for
Mhm.
that New England area, okay, but and Pennsylvania's not getting much of that money. Well, then that's going to kind of, we kind of have to be able to regulate that. And basically, what it's a matter of is trying to keep an even playing field. Not
Right.
necessarily fair, because, well, there's a person in our group that doesn't like that word fair. So, but her and I have made a decision. She gets her F word and I get mine. So, anyways,
Yeah.
hi
Yeah.
Laura.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, an even playing field. Okay.
Right.
It's one of those, and you kind of, if you take that same mindset out of the Federalist Papers, which you have to kind of revert back to the Federalist Papers on anything that was going on with the Constitution when it was written,
Right.
because it's basically the mindset of all of the authors of it and why they were thinking what they were thinking, and kind of gives an open view of, without us actually being able to have a conversation like you and are today. We're kind of being able to like maybe see what it was that they were wanting to try to do and accomplish. And so that's why they wrote that clause in there.
Well,
And so,
you actually get the true definition and interpretation of the Constitution. It's all right there in the Federalist Papers.
yeah, and that's what I mean. You're seeing that
Yeah.
mindset. You're seeing
Yeah.
how the wheels are turning and what cogs they're
Yeah.
putting in there to make it turn that way. So, and that's kind of where you go with when you go back to, some of that. And I know I went down a rabbit hole there, trying to
You
bring
did,
myself
but hey,
back here. The Fair
information is
Labor Standards
information.
Act. So this is where, that Fair Labor Standards Act, though, you're going to have a possibility of that $1 a mile minimum for company drivers, and at the same time, you might not.
Well, here's the
Because
deal.
the one problem you got right now is that we're not considered a skilled trade. So
There it is.
being able to put us as a classification as truckers that are company drivers into that is going to be a tough tall task to make. It really is. And let's be honest, because you are going to severely get into a lot of billionaires' pockets. Because, I mean, if you look at most of your mega carriers, I think the best I've seen out of any of them is what, 58 cents
Oh, I've actually
a
heard.
mile?
I've heard about 60. Between 60 and 61 is the
Okay.
very high end. That's the
Okay.
high end. But you're talking
Right.
major experience and longevity with that company to get to that rate.
Right. I'm talking somebody walking in off the street.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Even you or I, with almost 30 years under our belt,
That's not gonna
us
happen.
walking in the street,
No.
you're not getting $1 a mile.
No.
You're not going to do it. That's what I'm saying. I think it's somewhere around that 55, 58 cent mark. The
Yeah.
best that I've seen to walk in there without, and this is what I'm talking about. A gentleman or a lady that literally just finished up their trucking school, and they're looking to go to a company. Obviously, in today's, with the rules and regulations we have today, it's not like when I started driving or when you started.
Oh no. Completely different.
Now you have to go to a school. It's not like when I started driving. The company I worked for, they needed more operators, and so they come to me and they asked me if I would be willing to go get my CDL.
Right.
And they paid for the permit, they paid for the license, the whole 9 yards. And once I got the permit, I come back and they told me to climb in the truck. Go get with old man Rick over there and get in the truck. He'll show you how to drive. Once he felt comfortable, the boss come to me and said, when you want to go take the test. And back then we had third-party testing sites.
Yeah.
At least in Ohio we did. So, nowadays you don't even have that. So that's where I'm going with this is that you're going to have to, most everybody that's getting their CDL is going to have to do their 2 years of indentured servitude.
Basically.
Is what's going to happen.
basically.
You're
And you're
you're
going to
gonna
do
be
that for
here.
about 30. You're going to do that for about 35, 37 cents a mile.
Yeah, and that's so placing a $1 a mile minimum for those drivers, that are coming in new, which I don't agree $1 a mile for them. I could maybe see 60 to 65 cents because the reason being is you can't really turn them loose with a $250,000 truck and a $150,000 reefer trailer or a $200,000 reefer
Right.
trailer.
Right.
Somebody that's been in a trucking school for 5 weeks, 2 weeks of it is from my understanding, 2 weeks is classroom, and the next 3 weeks is either they're doing backing maneuvers or they're driving a truck around town. And
Basically.
it's a day cab with most of the time the ones that I've seen running around, they don't even have a full 53-foot trailer on the back.
No.
It's either a 26-foot pup or a 48. And
48.
it's a shorty.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot
It's
of
a lot
48s.
shorter.
Yeah.
It's a lot shorter. So you're not even giving them the real world experience because there is a different turning radius to a truck that's got a sleeper on it, like what you see with these big ultra lofts for like the Werners and the Swifts and stuff, for these boys and girls that stay out for months at a time, or that work in a team situation. You got a top and bottom bunk, so you got to have some room for those folks to be able to maneuver around in that truck. That the length of that truck just extended by like 4 to 6 feet, depending upon the configuration.
You're not talking these super sleepers that are out there at this point where after a
Yeah,
year,
but you're not going to see somebody hopping in that's brand new. I'm talking about, normally.
I was just
I haven't seen any mega carriers with super sleepers. I'll say
not
that.
yet.
I have not seen that. Now, let's not give them any ideas, Matt, because they'll put 6 people in one of those trucks probably. They'll pull the bathroom and the queen size bed out of it, and they'll strap chairs along the walls, and everybody can just pile into a little twin bed over there. So, and I have no doubt that the mega carriers would do that one. So the trucks would never stop.
Yeah. Run bunks down both sides of the super sleeper and take everything else out.
Yeah, it'd be like being on a ship. You have 3 bunks on this side, 3 bunks on that side, So, anyways, like, wow. But you're going to go do your 2 years of servitude. After that, but getting into those trucks with that longer wheelbase, I can't support $1 a mile for them because they don't know what they're doing yet. Now, with some of the stuff that I've wrote, and I helped write part of that After Act, and one of the things that I wrote in there was a timeline, if you will, for training, of where we go through, the first one, and it's getting yourself to like almost like what we talk about with like with pipe fitters and electricians. You've got an apprenticeship program, a journeyman program, and so on and so forth. Like you got a master pipe fitter and things of that nature that happen, master plumber, whatever. You've got those different levels. And this is where I truly believe that we need to do that in the trucking industry. And then once you get somebody and they're out of the apprenticeship program, which in my opinion should be at minimum 6 months. At minimum. And the reason being I say this, and I know some people are going to say, oh, bullshit, blah, blah. Wintertime driving.
Well,
Wintertime driving.
That's why
you should not be able to move from an apprenticeship out to a journeyman type, classification inside of trucking until you've been with a trainer during wintertime driving. Well, and I'm not talking about 1 month. I'm talking about the whole winter.
That's where I'm going to disagree with a little bit. I'm going to say at least a minimum of a year. 6 months, you can, depending on everything would have to work so actual right on the money that you're in the truck at the end of summer and the end of winter but the possibility of that actually happening is very slim. Most new drivers, especially or new truckers, I should say. I hate that term, drivers. Most truckers that are coming out of school are not going to be chasing. They're not going to be running northwest. They're they're not going to be running North Dakota. They're not going to be running Massachusetts unless, unless you're going to bow your head and be dictated to do it and do it anyway. But most of them are going to stay out of that cold weather for the first year. Yeah, get your driving experience, get your legs, stay in the South, the Southeast, the South Midwest. They're going to stay down there for as long as they can to make sure that they're secure with the truck before it. If you're a smart carrier, not saying they're all smart, but if you're a smart carrier, you're keeping the news down there and you're putting the experienced drivers to the north. So you utilize that 1 year. That 1 year mark is your first rookie year. And honestly, most companies won't even look at you for a day to run a day job unless you've got 2 under your belt. So really, you can actually bump that up to 2. Right, so your first 2 years would be your rookie years, your starting off the whole scenario. But we've chasing rabbits here. We are a little off the laws and regulations, and we started chasing rabbits. And I like it because hey, truck drivers, this is what we do. Truck drivers are very well known. You start getting in your head that one topic leads to the next, leads to the next.
Well,
before you know it, you're somewhere.
I was trying to come full circle into Senate Bill S893 here. This is what I was trying to do there.
I'm going to let you circle back around to that.
I was trying to come in because the other part of that $1 a mile is, and with that experience and stuff, we also have this thing that we're getting ready to talk, that I'm going into right now, of the guarantee and overtime for truckers. Okay, so now think about this. We do the $1 a mile. Okay, now guaranteeing overtime for truckers. As soon as they go over that 40-hour mark, if we're guaranteeing them $1 a mile, that just took them to $1.50.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. You have just shut down. You've just shut down every small carrier across the country because there's no way they can compete with that. No way.
You've not just shut down every small carrier. You've shut down every carrier. I can tell you right now, I've looked at the numbers and I've put together. Yeah. I literally just did one over on our website. Even at, if you look at, where did I find that? I just found an article here when I was going down a rabbit hole just before we got on here. And I don't know if I've got it. Where's that at, that rabbit hole? No, not that one. Where are we at here? It is, if I can find it here, I'm going to show it. I'm going to share it. Where's it at? Oh, it's right here. That's where it was. It was this article that I was reading here. This is the profit margin. Let's see if we're going to try share screen. I know I did it on the first one and nobody could see it. And I have had myself critiqued to no end by a certain person. And I'm like, I'm a rookie at this podcast thing. Okay. So bear with me and get the hero card done. So share screen. Let's try this. Where are we at here? Which one is it? It isn't that one. This one? I think it's that one. Is that it? No, let's just go to the window. Where's the window at? Is that it? I think that's it. Yeah. Let's try it.
There it is.
Okay. So here we go. Nope, that's the wrong one. I've got the window. Now I've got to find the right one that I was reading here. Here it is. If you look, where's it at? This was submitted for part of the broker transparency. And I was just reading through a lot of this stuff on the broker transparency because I was wanting to make sure that I had all of my dates correct and stuff. So, but if you look right here, most of the profit margins, even for the brokers, are somewhere between 15 to 13%. It's 15% for flatbed, 14% for reefer, 13% for dry van.
You might want to check that. I don't see that pulled up here. I see you still got the other article up there.
Oh, am I not there? Hold on. Let's do this. Okay, let's try again here. Let's go to window. Let's go to here. Let's try that. How's that? There it
There you
is.
go. There it is. There it is.
Hey, I'm learning, folks. You're learning right with me. We'll get there. We'll get there. At least it gives us something to laugh about. Matt's going to hard time me for about 3 weeks on this shit. So, anyways, 15 to 13% somewhere in the profit margin when you go through this article here. And you can, if you want to read this article, it's up under the what is it? It's the FMCSA 2023 0257 036. What's the rest of it there? Hold on. No, I don't want to close the tab. 0369 attachment -1 PDF. It's on the FMCSA's website underneath the broker transparency. So if you just search FMCSA 2023 0257, it brings up the broker transparency thing. But so yes, I understand the mega carriers, they do the, what do you call it? They do the brokerage thing. If you go to $1.50 for most of these drivers, you have literally increased the labor cost by 200%. If they're paying 50 and they're going to $1.50, that's insane.
That's a 300% increase.
Well, 300%. Yeah, sorry.
That's
300% increase. Yeah. There is not a single company out there that could handle that kind of a labor increase.
No.
It doesn't matter. Mega carriers or what. So if we decide that we want to do this whole dollar a mile thing, and we've got this one coming down the pipeline here, this S893 is coming down the pipeline. How on earth are these companies going to be able to afford this?
Well, I don't see this. We're gonna chase a squirrel here for a minute, because I got one squirrel running in front of me with this, and we're gonna chase it just a little bit. This is where we talked about in episode 1. This is where we talked about the lack of leadership within the trucking community. We've talked about how the trucking community is preyed upon by, we can call them false prophets, we can call them false teachers, we can call them individuals that have personal agendas that are using the trucking industry as stepping stools to get into something higher with more power. Okay, let's put it that way. Most of this stuff that's coming down the pike are people that are not thinking, that are coming up with ridiculous policies and ridiculous ideas, and pushing it into a trucking community that's already angry, that's already emotional, and they see 43 cents and they find somebody who's talking about wanting to bring rates up to $1 a mile. Of course, they're going to get on board with whoever that is that's talking, well, I'm going to push it to $1 a mile. Well, it's unreasonable. It's really unreasonable to do that. You don't know the damage that's actually going to occur because of that. And if you think that $1 a mile isn't only going to shut down, it isn't going to cause issues with small carriers, large carriers, owner operators, it's going to cause so much problems across the board. But you're not also looking at the fact that $1 a mile, and then after 40, if that gets pushed through, it now goes up to 300%, which is $1.50 a mile. It's the consumers that are going to end up paying on the backside. We're having a hard enough time. Listen, I have a family. My wife, my son are in the living room right in front of me. You have your wife and children. We know what it's like to go out and buy groceries for a month. My household takes $1,200 a month to run my household and keep it so that there's food in my cabinets and my fridge is stocked so that my kids and my wife are taken care of.
Right.
If you bring that that 50 cents a mile that everybody's complaining about, to the $1.50 after 40, you're not looking at a $1,200 grocery bill. You're looking at a $2,400 grocery bill.
Oh, yeah.
With increase on one side, there's increase on another.
Well, this is the thing. You could do one or you can do the other. But see, this is the problem of where when you go to get in and you go to start um, pushing these different agendas, you also have to look and see what it is that the government is also trying to do at the same time. And right now, since they're moving forward with this Senate Bill S893, which it's still in committee right now, which is the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. It was, I believe it was like October, it was early October, I think, when they submitted it, maybe September. But when once they pushed that in, that whole dollar a mile narrative should have stopped at that point. If you're going to be leading a cause like this, you have to think about outside of the box here. And if that S893 is there, because see, this is the other thing. If they get word that there is a cause that's pushing for $1 a mile, you might stop that whole S893. But then the dollar a mile, and they'll use this like this. The government people will use this, and the lobbyists, I should say, they'll use the dollar a mile to shut down the S893, and then they'll find ways around the dollar a mile with the lobbying and the so on and so forth and challenging it.
Right.
That it's going to literally get locked up for 22 years before anything's done about it.
Well, and we've talked about this. You and I.
We need to back this up, and we need to let some of this stuff take its course.
Well, you need to let it go right out the window.
Well, I'm just saying, this is where you have to go to critical thinking and logic.
Yeah.
And get rid of emotion. Okay. Right. Emotion, it clouds your judgment.
Absolutely.
It's the same reason of why you were judged by 12.
Yep.
Because if you allow the family or whatever the case is to do it, their emotions are going to cloud their judgment.
Absolutely.
And there are going to be a lot of people that are not going to, this is why we do what we do the way we do it in our judicial system when it comes to, being judged by a jury of our peers. You cannot have direct, connection to the case. You can't be a family member. You can't be a friend.
Right.
There's none of that. They want 12 impartial jurors to hear said case because they can most of the time, they're not emotional about it.
Right.
And it's the same thing that has to happen with leading this. You have to pull the emotion out of it and you have to think of it logically. Because if you go through, we do $1 a mile, which that's if that were to withstand any of the litigation and legislation and the lobbyist. And then at the same time, you're working on, they're working on this whole thing for overtime, which the whole thing for overtime, you and I have talked about. When you get into that's still, a lot of people are kind of like talking about it, but the one thing I want to let everybody know about that is yeah, it was introduced. No, I just looked. It was introduced in March of 2025. March 6th of 2025, it was introduced by Senator Alex Padilla, co-sponsored by Edward Markey, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Richard Blumenthal, and Ron Wyden. And as of October, it still remains in the committee. The thing of it is it, like we just talked about with the laws, this has to go through and pass the committee, pass the Senate, go to the House, pass that committee, pass the House, and go to the president. Now, we all know how slow the government works.
Well, they're shut down right now.
Well, there's that, but I literally wrote a timeline down here of broker transparency, and I literally, because I went through and I wanted to have it. Where did I put that at here? I wrote that down somewhere. Here it is. So it was literally on November 20th of 24 is when it was open for public comment. It was supposed to stop. That was supposed to expire on January 21st of 25. Instead, on January 19th, the SBTC submitted a request to extend it, and that was granted. Now, that comment period was closed on March 20th of 25. Right now, they're talking about, I literally just looked it up before this podcast because I wanted to be accurate. May of 2026 is the next talked about time for the second NPRM.
Huh.
Basically, because they had 6,986 comments received, they only used or posted 6,970 of them. And what that means is they're looking at the comments.
Right.
And a lot of the comments are not lining up with what OIDA and the SBTC put in there when they put this in there for a rulemaking proposal. And so now they've rewrote it and they're going to re-put it out May of 26 for it to be another, then it's going to get another comment period. Is what is the proposal or talked about timeline right now for a second comment period.
Right.
So it was submitted in November of 24. It's almost going to be 2 years before it hits the second comment period. And I'm not talking about the extended first one. I'm talking about they've literally are going to rewrite it and put it back out there for more comments. So going through and trying to get any of this, you have to remember government moves. Like I would literally be, I said this earlier, I would be willing to bet every asset that I have that a snail could crawl up a slippery mountain slope that's a mile long faster than Congress can pass a bill.
Unless it's something they want.
And I did say that. Now, if it has to do with their salary increase, by God, all 537 of them will be sitting in their seats saying, yay.
Yep.
But if it has to do with us, they're on a trip to Tahiti. They're sitting in their cabin in Montana. They're, or they're out at some
right
super PAC, foundation meeting where they're trying to get, contributions for their campaign.
Right.
To get reelected. That's
right.
all they're, So let's be honest here, folks. If we think the legislation is going to happen with everything that I've talked about so far, and if we think that if we think that we can legislate this problem to go away, it'll take 2 decades. Now, I'm here for the fight. I am. I'm here for the fight, but at the same time,
we're going to be here
by
for
the time
fight, but this is the wrong fight. This is not.
Well, you're not getting any thought. You're not going to accomplish anything.
Let's just be blunt. There is a simple answer to every problem. Typically they're overcomplicated. Too many people overcomplicate. This is a day and age of social media. Overcomplication is what's needed to keep people interested. Simple answers are easy. And when simple answers are used, it's over and done. The problem's solved. There's no more drama to be had for the problem.
Right.
So, and this is where we come into play. This is where our checks and balances and accountability, responsibility as an organization is going to come into play because there's simple answers for everything. This whole problem with how much a truck driver is getting paid, broker transparency, you can loop a lot of this all into the same thing. It's very simple. You and I have had this conversation. I have talked about it to people. You have talked about it to people. When the load pays 90 cents a mile, folks, just tell them to keep it. Don't pull the load. I don't care if it's coming out of Florida. I don't care if it's coming out of, the southern states. Texas is another bad one. Florida's a bad one. California's a bad one. Great going in, bad coming out. The Northeast has got a couple places that are like that. When you're up there and you pulled that load up there, listen, you're making more than enough money to get out of there and find a better paying load 400 or 500 miles down the road. Does it suck? Absolutely. But the more that you say yes to 90-cent loads, $1.25 loads, $1.45 loads, every single time that you say yes, they get a smile on their face and go, okay, then we can drop the rate even lower. The
Well, and
more
let's
you
talk
say
about that
no,
for a minute.
that is going that all the freight that you say no to sits on a dock. A warehouse cannot produce any more, cannot move any more product that's going to back up the warehouse. They have to push that freight. Therefore, you say no, uh, do 6 months. Get the trucking industry involved to just say no. We had this thing in the 80s, say no to drugs. Didn't work very well. Let's try it in trucking. Uh, if
What's
you
the
say
easiest?
no for long enough, the rates are going to come up. They
Well,
have to
see,
come up.
well, so this is what happens, okay, and this is where I know I'm hoping the people are out here are learning something. But let's do another little teaching moment here, and this comes into how the rates are how the rates are governed by the rejection rate.
Right.
If rates they come and go. Now I have some really good brokers that I deal with, okay? And so they will call me and they'll be like, "Hey, so I got this load of corn or I got this load of wheat mids or I got this whatever the commodity is cuz I look, on the ninth day God created a hopper bottom so that the livestock haulers would have somebody to look up to. Okay.
There you go.
I'm just going to say that. It's just get over it, guys. So that's the whole reason I hopped out of a pot was because I got tired of looking up at all the hopper bottoms. So,
There you go.
anyways, we're going to catch grief for this one, but let's
Oh,
move on.
we're going to get it.
Yeah, got to. It's a joke, guys. It's a joke.
Just take it
It's
easy.
not an eggplant. Take it so hard, okay? So, anyways, so yeah, it's the rejection rate. It's they'll call me and they'll say, "Hey, I got a load going from we'll just say the Dayton area down to Gainesville, Georgia."
Yeah.
Okay, that's a pretty popular lane in my area, and they'll what's it going to take to move it? It's going to take this, okay. But they'll call 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different carriers or guys or gals, and they'll get an idea of what it is. And then they go back and they say, "Hey, okay, so if you want that product and you want it moved on that lane, right now my guys and gals are telling me that it's going to cost, I don't know, $90 a ton." I'm just pulling a number out of
Yeah.
that's what they're saying. That's the average right now. I've had a low end of 85 and a high end of 100 or whatever it is, and they average it out and they say, boom, here it is. So, but if you don't, we have an overcapacity problem right now because the government let in the non domicile CDL, let in the non English speaking due to the 2016 memo that Obama put out there.
Right.
It is what it is. We've had to deal with it. We all know what happened. They do it to drive the rates down. The only people that profit from it are the shippers because it's still costing them the same to make the product. It's just now it don't cost them as much to ship it.
Right.
So with that being said, that's where they make their money at, because I've literally, I know brokers that we talk, and there's one that literally goes through and he makes his money off of the shipping.
Yeah.
The shipper makes the product. He basically gives the product away. He's basically selling it at cost because that's the best he can do it.
Right.
But what he does do is he'll go through and do the other. He'll ship it out for, $500 is what he'll say it'll cost to ship, but he'll only pay $200 to ship it. And that's how he makes his $300. Happens all across the board. It happens all across the board. I've heard other guys talk about that same situation on, different lines and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard it too. I hear the same story. I didn't get all of this gray because I was born back in, 2022. So, but if we don't get the rejection rate up, you don't get the freight rate up because that's what has to happen. The broker or the traders have to go back to the shipper and say, look, I can't get your product moved for that rate.
Right.
We're going to have to up the rate. It's sat on a board over. It's sat on this load board, or it's sat on my desk in the emails. I've emailed about it 16 different ways from Sunday. I can't get anybody to bite.
Right.
Or it's sat on the load board over here on the DAT board. This load of beef or whatever. Sat over here on the DAT board for the last 7 days. No, I didn't. I got 1 or 2 phone calls on it because I posted the rate. And everybody was like, "Well, can you come up on the rate?" And the broker's going to give the normal. Nope, I'm all in. That's what I'm at. I'm all in.
Yep.
I'm all in.
That is a common statement.
Well, and sometimes it's true, and sometimes it's not.
Right.
Most of the brokers that I deal with, when they tell me they're all in, I usually believe them.
Right.
Because I haven't had any reason to not believe them. And I try to look at the best in people. Yes, it might be a fault of mine, but I do.
Right.
Until you burn me, that's where it's at. Now, once you burn me, then hey, there it is. It is what it is.
Yeah. So nothing left to that bridge but ash.
Yeah, that's it. So don't try to come back across the river because it's a flood zone right now, and it's not going to work out well for you.
Right.
So, but I want to talk about the cost side there, and I hear a lot of people. I had a conversation tonight, and I had to put this one out there with somebody there. Of what do I do if I've got to make my truck payment, and I need to haul that load to make my truck payment, and I had to do it this way. And I'm going to share my screen again. We'll see if this happens, if this works here, because we're going to use a calculator. So we're going to go to the window. And there's my calculator. Here we go. All right, here we go. So we will say that right now that you have $2,500 in your bank account. So hide this because I can't see my zero. Thank you. You got $2,500 in your bank account. Your truck payment is $3,000. And you get a broker that calls you, and you don't have a whole lot of money, but the broker calls you and says, "Hey, I got a load that goes 500 miles and it pays $1,000." Now, you know that to go 500 miles, it costs you $1,200. So if you go through and you go, "Okay, yeah, I'll take that load because that'll give me $3,500." No, it doesn't.
No, it don't.
So right now we're going to say, okay, we're going to add that 1,000 that you just got paid. All right. Now you're going to think that you got 3,500 in there, except for now you got to take out the 1,200 that it just cost you to run that load.
Right.
You just lost. Now you're down to $2,300. How are you making your truck payment? You're not. Now, I know a lot of people are going to come back at me and they're going to say, "Well, that's just, there's nobody that's going to spend $1,200 on fuel." Fuel is not your only cost.
Nope.
If you have an older truck, you're going to spend a little bit more money on maintenance and a little less on a truck payment. If you have a payment, if you're a first time, owner operator or carrier, and you're financing your truck, which most guys and gals are doing that. Let's just be honest. So you're going to have a truck payment. If it's an older truck, you have higher maintenance cost. If it's a newer truck, you have a less maintenance cost, but a higher truck payment.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you, me, buddy of mine, another buddy of mine, we all have seen it. We've all been there. My one buddy, he literally had a 99 FLD Classic. Mm-hmm. Very low truck payment, but he spent somewhere around about $2,000 to $2,500 a month in maintenance on it. Because it was an older truck. So there was things that had to constantly, had to be worked on.
Absolutely.
Well, he decided to sell it, and I think he bought himself a 2021. Well, he's no longer working on the truck between shifts because he runs dump truck, but he's got one heck of a truck payment, and that truck payment basically absorbs that $2,500 a month that he was paying out in maintenance.
Right.
So
you're getting it once. Another. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
It's coming one way or the other. And the other thing you got to think about is this. I know a lot of people say, "Well, I own my truck outright." Okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? You own your truck outright. What are you doing that has to that goes through and helps keep that truck on the road. Because we'll just say you got a truck coming close to 1,000,000 miles, or you're already over 1,000,000 miles.
Right.
Have you been saving back money? Because at some point, that truck's going to have to go into the shop, whether it's your shop or somebody else's, and it's going to have an end frame done.
Yeah.
Almost every engine out there has to have an end frame done. And I will tell you this, if you own a Freightliner Cascadia or a Western Star, anything that's got a DD15 in it, I think they say it's like 99% of the time you have to do an out of frame, because the tolerances are so tight on those for an end frame, it cannot be properly done in the truck.
Nope, it can't.
And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, bullshit, it can. And I'm like, man, I'm hearing from a lot of people here that actually do this for a living and stuff, and they're getting another 1,000,000 miles out of that DD15, And I've heard some of them say, oh, no, you can do it all day long. You do it all day long. Well, yeah, I hear you can, but I hear you only get about 200,000 to 300,000 out of that end frame.
Right.
If you do an out of frame, you get another 1,000,000, but neither here nor there. And at this point, I went down like a way.
Oh no, we went down a rabbit hole that we're not coming back from. So,
well, no, we won't come back from it. So,
well, but here's what we'll do. We chased some rabbit holes. We gave out some great freaking information. I don't want to keep everybody for too awful long. We've been at this a little over an hour now. Let's jump back to the rules and regulations, and it's going to be a little dry on episode 4, folks. We're going to try to throw some humor in it, but it is rules and regulations. There's really not a lot of
there's not a lot more I really want to talk about with it, though. I mean, really, when you look at the rules and regulations, I explain most of what happens, how it happens.
We should touch on the fact that there are ways to deregulate some of the regulations that are out there, and have that conversation, because a lot of people. So that is the complaint.
The easiest way I can tell you to do this, and it's not very long to do it. If you go on our website, WeTheFOPT.org, there is an article in there. I believe it's the broker transparency article that it was written at the bottom in the references. Matter of fact, let's just see if we can pull that up right here, right now, because we will just do that on this. I will go through and share my screen, and we're just going to do this real quick to walk everybody through it. And we're going to go here. We're going to share the screen. The FOPT.org. Okay, here we go. So if you go down right here, broker transparency, and you click on this one right here, and you scroll to the bottom all the way down here in references, right here. This right here is where you can go through, and this is how to file a complaint. And this one right here is eligible complaints. So if you can click on a link, it takes you right to it. It's all right here. Go to the National Consumer Database homepage. It tells you exactly what to do. Are you a driver, a industry professional, a consumer? You can select a moving company, a trucking company, a bus company, property broker. They're all right here. Electronic logging device provider. It's all in step 3. Step 4 walks you through it again. If you need, step 5, it tells you the next step. Step 6, enter your contact, search the company information, provide documentation, and that's the thing that a lot of people need to pay attention to, is provide documentation. So if you want to go in and you want to file a complaint about broker transparency or lack thereof, because they asked you to sign a waiver, and you chose to sign that waiver and you don't like it, go in here, provide the documentation, submit the carrier broker agreement, submit the contract.
Right. Right.
Submit the contract and explain in there, there's a whole thing in here. You can go through, you can write it all up, you just have to follow the prompts. You've got the review and submit right here. There's a whole thing. that you can put your description right here and then drag and drop your file right there. It's that simple, you know. But I will tell you this: if you chose to sign and waive your rights to know the brokers, what that 371.3C, if you signed away that waiver, you're done.
Which is part of the rate con
You're
nine
done.
times out of 10. So
Yep. Well,
anytime you
it's
sign
in the
that rate
carrier
con,
broker agreement.
oh yeah,
It's in the carrier broker agreement. And I'm going to tell you right now, I had this argument earlier. If anybody wants to go through and look at it, if you go to 49 U.S. Code 14101, it talks about contracts with shippers and it says a carrier. And then if you go to the 49 U.S. Code 13102 and look up the definitions of what a carrier is also a broker. A broker. So that definition of a carrier, where is it? Well, are we still sharing? Yeah, we're still sharing. Right here,
yeah, there it is.
definitions.
There it is.
Carrier. The term carrier means a motor carrier, water carrier, and a freight forwarder. Now, if you want to know, if you click on this, it will take you over to this 131023, which we've already been there. If you come over here to freight forwarder, you click on it, it talks about that, which is just a little bit farther down. And right there, a freight forwarder is the exact definition of what a broker does.
Exactly.
They consolidate and provides the assembly and consolidating of shipments, performs or provides for break, bulk, and distribution operations of the shipment. It assumes the responsibility for transportation from the place of receipt to the place of destination and uses for any part of transportation a carrier subject to jurisdiction under this subtitle. So it's right there. You are capable of waiving it. You are capable right here that is legal in general. So if you look at this one right here, which is 49 U.S. Code 14101, right here, contracts with shippers. The only thing that cannot be waived is right here. The parties may not waive the provisions governing registration, insurance, or safety fitness.
Right.
Which basically means your DOT number has to be in compliance and you have to be authorized for said, operations.
Right.
It's right there. If you want to fix broker transparency, folks, if you really want to fix it, it's pretty simple. You can do one of two things. You either stop hauling the freight and say no to the low stuff and actually learn your operating cost, which if you want to know that, reach out to me. I will send you my spreadsheet that I have designed and developed that'll help you monitor and track all of your operating costs. And I'll send it to you free of charge. I don't care. You just give me your email address and I'll send it right over. I'll even walk you through on how to fill it out so you will actually know your operating costs.
Right.
You can put, I think, 4 years information in it right now. I haven't changed it around to do a 5th year development on that yet. I'm thinking 4 years is pretty good. If you know your 4 years, you're doing all right. So, but the other is, everybody says, well, we'll get blacklisted if we request it. If every single carrier that works with that broker requests they request the original rate from the shipper, the brokers cannot blacklist everyone.
No, they can't afford it.
If they do, they have no one to haul the freight.
All right, exactly.
If
you're back to the same simplicity of just saying no. You say no to the cheap freight and you have everybody stand together. This is what we've been trying. This is what, and again, we're going back to FOPT again. This is what we're trying to do. This isn't about, I don't care what your race and religion, how long you've been out here. You can be out here. You could just get out of school tomorrow. You can be out here for 50 years. Every one of us is a professional truck driver in one fashion or another. And professional truck driver, not driver. Let's get that point straight. But every one of us has started where the new professional truck driver has been, whether you come off a farm, whether you're coming out of a generational family that's done it. whether you're coming out of a school, no matter where you're coming from to get into that semi and push 18 wheels down the road and 80,000 pounds or more, uh, we have all been in that day one. Every one of us has been in that day one. You are a professional truck driver the day you step into that truck and assume the responsibility. And I mean, assume, which means you're already aware of all the responsibilities of what it takes to be in that truck. You are a professional truck driver. You're not a driver. Don't let anybody call you a driver. You are a professional trucker. That is your duties, whether it's a job to you that lasts 3 years, or you're somebody like me or somebody like Cupcake that makes a life out of this. This is a different ball game, folks. FOPT is here to we're not calling you out on however it is that you live your life. We're looking at you as a professional truck driver. We're trying to give you the knowledge that you need to stop the separation, the division within the trucking community, so that we can all start working together as a unit. I'm sure, dude, you know it. I know it. I'm tired of hearing that whole unity speech. Okay, I ran a small group 4 years ago, tried to get it up and going. You know about it. You followed us. We pushed that unity so hard and so fast, and it really caught fire. We saw a lot of people from a lot of different ethnic groups, backgrounds, the whole 9 yards come together, and FOPT has taken that to a new level. We need to focus all that energy within each other to start pushing this just say no, and calling out the broken leadership, the whole 9 yards within the trucking community, which is a very major problem. You start pushing them out, you start saying just say no, you start pulling together, and like you were just saying, bud, you get all these carriers to stand up and say, okay, listen, broker ABC, this is the week we're all going to request that information from this broker. Anybody who hauls a load from broker ABC is going to request this information. And if you have a problem with it, contact FOPT. We're going to be in your corner. We're going to get out there and fight. This is the stuff that we need to see more often. We don't need more people in the trucking industry in Washington, D.C. Apologies for what I'm about to say, but it's very blunt and very truth. You're just fucking it up for everybody else. This personal gain that you're trying to do, this social media game that you're trying to play, this false leadership that you're putting out there, and you're playing on the people's emotions that they're suffering from out here on the road, the loss of their companies, the struggles of their families, losing an owner operatorship and having to get back into a driver's position, or a paid
company driver.
Company driver. Listen, all you do every single time that you go to Washington and you play this I'm in Washington game, you're actually hurting the trucking community, because you're not actually thinking outside the box. You're playing on emotion. So I'm asking all of you, if you're this so-called leader inside the trucking industry, step away from Washington. If I hear you're going to Washington, I'm calling you out. If you're going to play on the truck drivers that are out here, the professionals that are out here that are struggling every day, I'm going to call on you. I'm going to call you out by name, because you don't belong in Washington, D.C. What you're doing is creating more problems. And honestly, it's going to be me and Cupcake coming in from the backside, playing the cleanup mess, trying to fix all your mistakes. So just stop. Just get out of the way. Let us do what we need to do. And, if you need that pat on the back and that higher position, or that position at Washington because you want to be a senator, or you want to be a representative, or you want to be the head of FMCSA, you know what? We'll come and call you when we're ready for you. Just chased a rabbit. Sorry, buddy.
You're all right, man. You know what? I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. At least I'm not the only Elmer Fudd. That's all I got to say. You know,
Yeah.
so.
But listen,
Oh,
truck drivers around the world, hey, listen, all of you, we're going to have some fun. This is episode 3. I got a little serious. I meant what I said. We have one of the smartest guys in the top tier of this organization. I stepped down from it. I put him up there. There's a reason for it. He has knowledge. He's no different than I am. He can step outside the box. He can look in and he can look out. We see the bigger picture. We can see past the smoke screens. We know what's going on. Listen, we're not dumb truck drivers, folks. We've been out here too long.
Let's just say it. We don't copy paste from Chat GBT. Okay.
Listen, there's no copy paste. When we do research, listen, folks, you can go see those articles written on our webpage right now. Those are written by Mike Cobb, the guy you're seeing right in front of you. When we do research, we do research. We dig as deep as we can. We told you in episode 1 or 2, we are digging into tax files for OOIDA. We're digging into tax files for ATA. Folks, we're not playing games. We know what these kinds of organizations.
It's time to call them on the carpet. It's time to call them on the carpet. They're pulling enough money out of the truck drivers' pockets because they're going to help them.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like those famous 7 words from Reagan. I'm from the government and I'm here to help you.
There it is.
I'm from OOIDA and I'm here to help you. Or I'm from the ATA and I'm here to help you.
Listen,
no,
we're just truck drivers. We're just truck drivers.
Hold on. I want to say this though.
Go ahead.
Don't get mad at me. I like your fuel card and I appreciate your drug consortium program. I use it all the time. It's great.
Oh no! Let's no. Hey, listen. Listen. I am not against. I am not 100% against OOIDA. I am against their policy change and attack.
Yeah. It's like we talked about.
I'm gonna
you sitting up there in front of Congress and saying one of the most important things here is bathroom access. Okay, I can tell you there has not been any place that I've been to, and this is going all the way back to COVID.
Yeah,
there is not, and I'm not going to say I'm not saying I'm special and that the world is exactly like I live in, but I have not run into a place that did not have a bathroom access for me.
Right.
So,
I've been to one. I've been to 1 or 2, but let's give props. I'm going to give a little props to OOIDA. A little. Okay, little. Everybody see that, right?
Hold on a minute. Is hell freezing over? Is it getting cold outside?
I'm telling you. Okay, listen, we're going to give OOIDA some props, okay? OOIDA has an absolutely great fuel card program for the owner-operators and the independent.
I use it.
OOIDA has some very good insurance programs. OOIDA has an amazing life insurance program for professional truck drivers. I'm not taking that away from you, OOIDA. I'm just not. Okay, I have been debating with myself. I've had a conversation with my wife about being a member just for those reasons. Okay, just for the fuel card, just for the insurance purposes. You have developed a phenomenal insurance plan, a phenomenal fuel card program. You have provided services for the owner-operator independent, and I'm not taking that away from you. But as far as your work with Washington, D.C., your work with the things that are going on, within the trucking community, it's time to step back. Okay. Yeah. You've had your 70 years or 50 years, 60 years, whatever it is at this point. It's time to step back, let fresh and new blood that are willing to actually call things out the way that they need to be called out and support those individuals. Stop being the front runners because you're not a front runner anymore.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact of money. Everything unfortunately, everything in this world revolves around the almighty dollar. At least in the United States, it's the dollar. Whether you go to Europe, it's the euro. It's the peso. I think still in Mexico. But in America, everything revolves around the almighty dollar. And I think, unfortunately, I think the money has gotten into their head a little bit, and
Well, I
they
see
are
that.
just kind of riding the wave of the money that's coming in and enjoying the money that's coming in. And
Well, they
it's
should. I mean, they ought to be enjoying it. I mean, $85 million in assets. I
I
mean,
I
come on.
understand.
I
Why do
wish
you
I
think
had
I just said what I said?
$85 million. I wouldn't
I
want.
really wasn't gonna put their feet to the fire on that one in this one, but I
You
know
know
where
what?
you're at. We've looked at the
Listen.
numbers. We've
I
looked at the
gave them. I
numbers.
gave them their props. I gave them their props. They have. Listen. It is what it is. But if you're supporting the American truck driver, the owner operator, the independent, we have lost so many since the beginning of the epidemic that have gone out of business. We're seeing more and more and more and more and
Well,
more
yeah,
go out of business.
Montgomery Transport just went out of business yesterday or day
Okay.
before.
But you're sitting on $85 million in assets. How can you be pro professional trucker and watch all these individuals go out of business sitting on that kind of money, knowing that you could have been the helping hand to keep them in business? This is the problem that I see in leadership is they do not lead by example. And this is our lead pillar in this organization is lead by example. Uh, if you can't lead by example, if you're going to sit there and sit on $85 million in assets while an owner operator has just lost everything that or the family is in peril, and it's a problem for me. That's not leadership in my book. To me, that is somebody who's fed off of the community long enough to get to a point where they can coast. And at this point, the actual care is not there.
Well, I mean, if we're going to go into that, I can say this one because they literally just posted their well, what was it? That would have been Thursday, right? Yeah, Thursday. They came out. Montgomery Transport folded. A
I saw
thousand,
the article.
thousand, thousand employees and 600 truck drivers.
All over the
You know,
country shut down, except for the
yeah.
ones that were close to
Well, they told
in
everybody to go
Alabama.
home. They
Well,
told
except for the
everybody if
ones
you're
that,
close to home, go
yeah,
home. If you're
close
close
to
to the
home, go home.
terminal, bring it to the
Yeah.
terminal. If you're
No,
out delivering, deliver the load and whatever's closer. If home's closer, go home. If the terminal's closer, go to the terminal.
well, they
I'm
and
willing to
I'm
bet that I can tell you right now, most of the drivers that I know and I know of, most drivers are going to the house.
yeah,
Most truckers are going to go to the house.
yeah.
Don't you guys can come get the truck. I'm not going to come to the yard down here and then have to try to find my way home. No, I'm going to go home. You guys
Right.
come get the truck. I mean, what are they going to do? They going to fire you?
Well,
No,
I'm
you're
gonna
already
give
done. You're out of a job. So it's
you
like, what
know
are they going to do?
a small prop to Montgomery. I don't know their whole background. I don't know why they. I know they did go from chapter 7 or 11, and then ended up filing chapter 7 uh, after some kind of
The,
dispute or internal conflict. But I
what
will
the
give
write
them
up
the
says that the investment group left
yeah,
and PNS was supposed to come in, and then they weren't specific as far as what happened with that,
right.
but somehow the negotiations fell apart, and they went from being able to have to do the 11 to have to do the 7. And when it
Well,
went to that point, that was the end of it.
what
So
I want to do is say I want to give props to the owner of that company. I did read in the article that they did put aside all the funds needed to make sure that those drivers were paid up to
yes,
date and current, and even under the if they were under loads. That is something I'm going to give you major props for as an
yeah,
owner of a company, is that you made sure that no matter what, that your professional truckers were paid for the time that they were on the road, or finishing their loads or whatever the case may be. That's a
yeah.
huge prop, because a lot of companies I've seen in the past that have shut doors have had truck drivers left on the road that are owed 2 or 3 weeks of pay, or settlements that have never been paid up or still probably not been paid up. So huge props to the owner of Montgomery, because he really that was a huge thing to read in that article. It was that he made sure those funds were available.
Yeah, well, that's one of those things. To me, it didn't sound like they wanted to go under. They were trying to make it work, and then obviously certain things just happen. And business is business. I mean,
That's it.
I said this earlier in a conversation I had. If you're coming to run a business, you're now in the majors. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's the same way in the trucking industry. Compare being a carrier like myself. I have my own numbers. Everything's on me. I've got like 16 hats that I wear.
Right.
So to a company driver, okay, my spot or someone that has the same situation as I do is that they're a carrier. They're playing in the NFL, the NBA, the MLB.
Right.
They're playing in the majors.
Right.
If you're a company driver, you're still playing high school ball. And the reason why I say this is because anybody gets to play high school ball.
Yeah.
And just about anybody can get a CDL these days.
Oh, okay? No, that's the truth of it.
And so, it's not that hard to do.
Right.
If you pay attention, my father taught me one thing: don't ever say I quit.
Right.
If you put your mind to it, you can make it happen.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
He beat that into me, over and over again. And there's only one thing I've ever quit, and I regret it to this day. And I stopped with that mentality over 2 decades ago. So, if you want to get CDL, you can do it. It's
Right.
out there. Just about anybody can. A lot of these schools that I know of, I know a lot of the owners, they will work with you. They will bring you in on Saturdays and Sundays for extra schooling to learn how to back, or if you're struggling with that, or if you're struggling
Right.
with, shifting, if you're with a school that does manual transmissions, whatever. A lot of these schools are understanding, and they want you to pass,
Right.
because one, they don't want to have that bad mark on them that they can't get somebody passed.
Right.
But if you're going to come play in them, not everybody though, where I was going with that is not everybody gets to play in the majors.
No.
I mean, what do they say? It's only like 1% of the kids that play high school football make it to the NFL.
1% of any sport. 1%.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
It's what I was about to say. It doesn't matter whether it's MLB, the NBA.
Right.
Because think about it. There is a crap ton of high schools. There's only 32 NFL teams.
Yeah.
There's half as many colleges, there's not even that many D1 schools. And most of your kids for like NFL are brought out of D1 schools. Same way with baseball. They're brought out of a D1 school.
Talking about that, that's where we're getting.
Where I was going with this is that a lot of people, we if you want to be in the majors and you want to be a carrier, you cannot complain.
No.
You can't sit there and make bad decisions and then complain to everybody else and think it's going to be better. You can't do it. It's not going to happen. It doesn't work out well. You can't expect the government to fix your problem. Yeah, it's the lack of accountability. And I've said that a bunch lately too to some people, because they want to sit there and say that, oh, well, this needs to happen. No, what's your operating cost? Well, they'll ask me, what's your operating cost? $213 a mile. After that, I start to be able to pay myself and put money in the bank.
Right.
Well, how do you know that? Spreadsheet I got.
Right.
That's how I know. It's right there. I can pull it up at any time. And the spreadsheet that I've got, it works for power only. It works for bulk. If you're per ton, per bushel, power only, or if you're van,
right.
And you just need to know a cost per mile. It's right there. If you can't click on the tabs and you can't fill out a spreadsheet, you probably shouldn't be an owner operator.
No, not at all.
If you can't go and talk to people, if you can't talk intelligently to brokers or shippers or traders, you probably shouldn't be an owner operator. If you can't respectfully, which I'm not saying every time that I've said no to some of these folks, I've been respectful about it. But for the most part, I try to be.
Right.
Now, some of them will call and I've told them, there's one company that I dealt with and we had a nice little knockout drag out. It seemed about it. And I told them, if you're not going to send me freight that pays this much, quit bothering me.
Right.
I've
Right.
said this to every one of your people. I
Yep.
don't know how much more clear I got to be. I've even emailed you, who was their like team leader or whatever, for who was
Right.
overseeing the floor manager, whatever they call them. And it's like, look, that was one of the few times that I got a little disrespectful. And it was, was it right for me to get disrespectful? I'll stand on 10 toes and say, no, it wasn't. It was out of frustration. I was not exactly having the greatest day, and I did it.
Right.
Now, I haven't done a whole lot of business with them people since then. They still email me from time to time, but I just haven't done a lot of work with them. After that, I had a bad taste in my mouth about them. I'm sure they didn't have the greatest taste in their mouth about me.
Right.
But if you're going to be a carrier, you got to be also to not just be able to worry about the contracts. You got to be able to read the contracts. You got to be able to converse with an attorney. You need to be able to converse with an accountant, and you need to be able to talk with these people intelligently, and not just say, "Oh, well, I don't know." That doesn't work.
You got to know your business.
That does not work.
You got to know your business.
Well, the thing of it is this also. Can you go talk intelligently to a banker? Can you go through, and if you need to get some financing because you got some stuff coming down the pike here and you got some big ticket items and you don't necessarily want to take that money out of the kitty because it might make things a little tight at the end.
Right.
But you might have some equity in some equipment, or you've got a really good credit score, and so you go talk to your banker. Well, your banker's going to want to know, how profitable are you?
Right.
Right. Because you can turn in your taxes to them, but that don't mean, if you can't explain to them what's going on, most of the time they're going to go, who is this guy? Who is this gal? They're sitting in front of me and they want me to loan them out $50,000, and they can't even explain to me why their numbers jump from one year to the next.
Right.
What? You
got to know you got to know your business.
This is where I talk about, if we're going to be professionals, then you need to be professional and you need to be able to do every aspect of it. And if you can't do that, then owner operating or being a carrier is obviously not for you. There's nothing wrong with being a company driver. And if you're not being treated right at that company, then guess what? You need to go look for another one. I know of somebody that pays pretty good out in the Denver area. And she pays pretty good, and she's always looking for top quality help.
With
and when I say top quality help, if you've got to be a job in that area,
you've got to be experienced.
You got
and we're going to do that. We've talked about doing that too. Very shortly here hopefully by the end of November, we're going to have a separate page on our website. It will have, the mom and pops, small carriers, people who are looking for experienced truck drivers. We're going to do that free of charge for these small carriers and these small mom and pops, just to see if we can help move some experienced truck drivers into better positions and help these small carriers at the same time.
Yep.
So be on the lookout for that on our website. Other than that, brother,
development.
Everything's
we're at an hour and 45, so we probably ought to.
Let's call it a night. And hey, thank you if you stuck around for the whole conversation. We're sorry about chasing rabbits, and we're not sorry about chasing rabbits. We actually have fun doing that.
Hopefully you guys, it's helping y'all stay awake if you're driving late at night and you guys are, are needing something to listen to.
There you go.
I'll try to get a little more comedic throughout if I can. So we got to get Matt smiling more. We do. Yeah, we're going to have to start doing some lives and get some people in there or something. He's got such a beautiful smile, folks. We just got to get him to laugh more, So
I got a serious side that likes to stay out. And when it comes out, it likes to stay out. But hey,
that's why I keep poking the bear.
That's it. Just keep poking that grizzly, man. He has fun when he gets poked. You have yourself a great night, brother. It has been a blessing
too.
talking to you as always. And ladies and gentlemen, be safe out there on the highways. We'll be seeing you out there soon. If you find us, hey, come shake our hands, say hello. We would love to meet each and every one of you as we go. But y'all have yourselves a great night, and we will talk to y'all soon.
Give my love to everybody. I'll talk to you, buddy.
Absolutely, bud.
See ya.
See you.
Thanks for rolling with us on the new Trucking Standard, brought to you by the Federation of Professional Truckers. From our seats to the nation we serve, stay safe out there and keep on trucking.